What does it take to step away from the two-party system and run as a true independent for governor of Virginia? This week on the 75 podcast, we sit down with Donna Charles, an Air Force veteran, national security expert, and lifelong public servant, who's bringing her experience from the Pentagon, the State Department, and the White House to the campaign trail. She's challenging the status quo with a bold vision for safer communities, stronger schools, better healthcare, and government that works for the people, not parties. If you've ever wondered whether independence in politics can truly make an impact, this is the conversation you won't want to miss.
Have you ever wondered how our political system became so intertwined with big money? Well, it wasn't always like this. Decades ago, there were limits and regulations in place to prevent corruption and ensure fair elections. But then came a series of pivotal court decisions that established that money equals speech, setting the stage for the wealthy to have an outsized influence on politics. It's no wonder that over 75% of Americans believe it's time to take big money out of politics. Join us as we explore how money influences U.S. politics in profound and sometimes unsettling ways. The 75 podcast starts now.
Welcome to the 75 podcast. I'm your host, Michael Hahn, and today we're honored to welcome an exceptional guest, Donna Charles, an Air Force veteran and national security expert turned independent candidate for governor of Virginia. Over the next hour, we'll explore her journey in public service, the vision she brings to Virginia, her stance on the money out of politics movement, her perspectives on the big issues of our time, and what fuels her optimism for America's future. Donna, thanks so much for joining us today.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Let's start at the beginning, Donna. So you've shared that you were born and raised on your website in Queens, New York. Can you tell us about your upbringing, your schooling, how early experiences kind of shaped your commitment to public service?
Sure. Yes. As you said, I was born and raised in Queens, New York. And both of my parents are immigrants. They're both U.S. citizens as of the 80s and 90s. But I went to Catholic school my entire life, at least for primary school, first grade through eighth grade. And my parents sent me and sent my sisters and me to these schools at great personal expense. This was before the time we had, vouchers and things like that. My parents wanted us to have the best education that they could afford. And they sent us to the best schools they possibly could. Both of my parents are very much very motivated to put education as the center of child rearing, right? So, but I also had a pretty normal childhood as well. So I was a Girl Scout, I was a cheerleader, I took dance classes, I took piano, I did all the things that little kids, do and enjoy. I wasn't allowed to go camping or horseback riding, but other than that, pretty normal. But yeah, I mean, I was also a Girl Scout, and the thing about Girl Scouts is that I got the bug for public service very early through that experience. I was a Girl Scout for 8 years, sold tons of cookies, and but also volunteered at nursing homes and in public parks and making sure that our environment was clean and doing arts and crafts and really learning how to work as a team to make other people's lives better through public service. And so that's a little bit of a nutshell, but yeah, I went to Catholic school my entire life and then went to Penn State. And that was where I decided that I needed to consider what it is that I plan to do. If I was going to medical school, I would have to take out more debt. And I started looking at the military options. And so that's one of the reasons I sort of made that journey, was because I realized that education was critically important. There are things that I wanted to do and places I wanted to see, but I also wanted to continue serving my country. And so that's how my upbringing really shaped the career decisions I made down the line.
So growing up in New York, I relate to you there. I wasn't in
Yes.
Queens, but I was, a little bit outside of the New York City area. Um, but you did 10 years, is it, of military service, or nearly a decade of it?
Yes. So when
Yeah,
you
how
combine the active duty time and the reserve time, so I did 7 years active duty and then 3 years, roughly 3 years of reserve time.
in the Air
So
Force?
in the Air Force, yes, U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, went in as an officer. Initially went in as a missile maintenance officer. And so that landed me at places like, Minot, North Dakota. And then we do something called cross training where you decide to change your in the Air Force, you call it the Air Force Specialty Code. So I changed my AFSC from missiles to intelligence, and that was the majority of my time in the Air Force was as an intelligence officer. So I've served in senior intelligence officer roles in the Air Force until I left the service, even in reserve time. So I did that all the way through my reserve time as well. And so,
That's
yeah,
not
I
super
really, really
interesting.
enjoyed it. Got to deploy several times, did the Iraq stint a
Oh,
couple of times.
how
And
was
also,
that?
uh, you know, it
Yeah,
was,
difficult.
it's hard. It was difficult, but I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much about why it's important for our foreign policy and our national security establishment to get it right the first time, right? Because we're the ones that go downrange. We're the ones that we face the very near term, immediate bodily threats. And so it's really important for folks to get it right the first time. And as we're now seeing in hindsight, Iraq was definitely not a case where we got it right the first time, right? But other
A
than
lot of
that,
people, yeah, I think a lot of people share in that opinion that, yeah, hindsight is not a lot of money spent, right? And a lot of unrest, instability created as
yeah,
well.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think in both cases, Iraq and Afghanistan, we're not covered in glory in either one of those cases, right? I mean, I think our initial push into Afghanistan, made sense in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, but when you see it unfold over decades, you realize that there are lessons that we could have learned from Iraq that we did not. But that said, I do not begrudge the opportunity to serve my country. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I learned a lot about not just myself, but why it's so important for us to be very mindful, be very careful about how we shape and how we advance our national security objectives, because there are people involved on both sides, on either end of that stick.
I
So,
think you got right to my next question,
yeah.
basically, which was how did these experiences, inform your view on leadership and kind of civic responsibility? And I'm hearing a little bit of that already. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be one of those. There are a lot of people who are like, "Oh, well, you have to have served our country in order for you to be a great leader." I think leadership comes in various forms. I do believe I am uniquely positioned to take on other leadership positions because I've had this experience from not just a civilian, but also from a military perspective, having served my country in that capacity, and it gave me a wonderful lens and a wonderful pathway to leverage that expertise that I gained downrange and during my time as a military intelligence officer to becoming a national security expert, a foreign policy advisor, somebody who can look at those experiences and look at those lessons learned and say, how do we ensure that we're taking those lessons learned and applying them in cases where we don't necessarily have to use military force. We can use other tools in our toolkit. So to me, leadership is about leveraging whatever experience you have, be it either military, civilian, wherever the case, and ensuring that your leadership is not about tyranny or being an overlord, but it's about learning from the people around you and not necessarily always being the smartest person in the room, making sure that you're leveraging the talent and expertise around you to make the best decisions on behalf of the American people, be it elected office, or if you're an appointee, or if you're a middle level official who is happens to be a civil servant or a bureaucrat. Whatever the case is, your goal is to work with the people around you to advance the American people's interests, either at home or abroad. And leadership has,
I'm nodding
yeah.
along because it just resonates with me as well. And
Mhm.
I'm in corporate America, corporate accountant, and the same thing I tell people that I work with is you don't, and I heard this from our management, from our senior leadership at the company. You don't need to be the senior leader of the company to act like a leader on a daily basis.
Exactly.
And I think that's important for everybody to remember as they carry themselves, to say you can always lead by example, no matter what position you are in life at that current
Absolutely.
point in time.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a breath of fresh air, right? To see you doing this is, stepping up to run for governor of Virginia, and as people get to know a little bit about what you stand for, they're going to understand why I'm saying that. So you're running as an independent, which
Yes.
is a pretty bold move. A lot of people think that uh, independents don't stand much of a chance in elections. I think that myself, my own personal view, that is just a man-made, fictitious misnomer. I think that independents stand a great chance to win, and I encourage more people to run for office and do like you're doing, and use you as an example a little bit about what can be done. So, what made you make that decision to run?
Well,
And why independently, and talk a little bit about that.
sure. Well, I'll stair step it. First, my decision to run broadly was about extending not only my experience and my background in national security and foreign policy and public policy into elected office, but ensuring that I was using my talents and capabilities in a way that would help people around me. I've always been about fixing and solving problems, right? I've always wanted to focus my background and my talents on that, on finding solutions to everyday issues and understanding that there are people out there who oftentimes are rendered voiceless, are often rendered, nameless, are invisible. And running for office means that you can give voice, you can give power to those people that are oftentimes overlooked in these processes. So that was my main push, was to be a public servant, and not just a public servant who reaches elected office, but to be that person who ensures that those who are often on the margins have a voice in the matter, have a voice in public policy, have a voice in their environment and their community. So that was my main reason for running broadly. Now, running as an independent is that's a very deliberate thing that people do. Um, you run as an independent when you get to a point where you look at both parties and realize that neither one of them is living up to the aspirations, the goals, the ideals, or even just the bare bones of what their tenant is supposed to be for the people that they're serving, right? It seems to me that both parties now are locked in this battle for power rather than locked in a cooperative agreement to serve the American people. And that is across the board. They're taking money from the same um, corporate entities and dark money groups and PACs that aim to not just bend public policy towards their outcomes, their desired outcomes, but oftentimes to do it to the detriment of the American people. And that to me is a system that is no longer working for the people. I have serious concerns that the two-party system is going down the road that George Washington warned us about in 1796. I realize that this tug of war makes it difficult for us to advance public policy that works for the people. Everything from raising the minimum wage to ensuring that data centers and our environmental policy is regulated to keep people safe and keep our environments clean. Those are the types of things that I'm very concerned about. And I realized that neither party is really making it happen. And so I decided that I'll run as an independent because then I don't have to worry about the trappings of either party pushing me towards a particular party line. We're even seeing it with the situation in Gaza. People feel muzzled, or people are muzzling themselves because of the money that they're taking that requires them to make a certain take a certain position on something that is blatantly obvious to everybody.
Yeah. So it's almost like the system of the two parties, right, is got people trapped into what their options are, and if you don't toe the party line, then you're not going to get the party funding or the party support. And not only do you not get their support, you probably end up getting attacked by them also.
Oh, yeah.
So just going to run for the party or being part of that party, they can exile you very easily if you don't toe that line, and then make you not relevant that way. So it's almost, seems like one of the only ways to be relevant is to go independent and try and say this whole thing is a mess right now. And, with respect, we're trying to do it to provide another alternative.
That's one way to put it. I mean, I think you could probably make your case for both pathways, meaning that being an independent oftentimes renders you, it sometimes puts you in the margins of a debate that's happening among two parties that are so well financed that they can afford to marginalize you. On the other hand, your presence, even in, as legitimately as you are presenting yourself to the people who you're asking to vote for you, your presence offers them an opportunity to think about what is going on with the two-party system. But another thing that I'd like to point out about what's going on with the parties right now is that we're seeing what I would say is the sheer example of state capture that has made it difficult for the parties within themselves to function normally and effectively. On the Democratic side, you have candidates who have resoundingly won nominations, right? If you look at what happened in New York with Zohran Mamdani and the fact that the Democratic Party can't, with one voice, unequivocally support and endorse this individual who has run a valiant race to capture the nomination. Same thing's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? And that to me is an indication that there's something very deeply wrong, something rotten in the system. And the Republicans have the same issue.
What's happening in Minnesota? I'm
So
familiar with
so Minneapolis, the mayoral race there is they have a bit of a caucus process that they do to establish their nominees for the mayoral race in Minneapolis. And my understanding is that the incumbent, Jacob Frey, is being challenged by another Democrat socialist candidate. His name is Omar Fateh. And the caucus apparently, the results of the caucus are being challenged because of some technicality. And it appears that Omar Fateh won that caucus because of the amount of support that he had during that process, which requires people to show up at various locations and provide their support and rally support for their candidate. So it's a rather complicated process, and there were some technicalities that essentially have led people to believe that maybe there was more concern about the candidate than it was really the process.
Oh.
That said, I am not going to pontificate as to whether or not, the Democrats are trying to rally behind one candidate there or another. I will just say that the reporting very strongly indicates that the party had an idea of who they really wanted to back. And when the results don't come out the way they want to, especially when you have something that is akin to ranked choice voting, which is what happened in New York, or even a caucus process, then, things start to fall apart very quickly and very publicly. And to me, it's also emblematic of the issues that the Democratic Party is having at the leadership level.
It's all, to me, again, it's comes down to leadership.
Yeah.
And it's a power struggle between the two parties, but also with these leaders of the parties at the top that are making decisions as to what we're going to be allocating our resources to, and how our strategy is going to deploy for or against people. It's compelling, unfortunately, that that this is the case. And you say, like, the American people are kind of stuck in the middle, or they're stuck without a true representative because they're playing the games, right? It's politics is a game, and
Absolutely.
it shouldn't be. It's not. It shouldn't be a game. It's real life, and it feels like they play games with it. And
Michael,
that's
one other point.
infuriating. It's infuriating to people.
It is. It's infuriating. It's frustrating, but it's also it's a game, but it's a strategic game. And the reason I think we need to also think about our past, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to talk to you, because you have such a strong sense of how history has shaped where we are today. That's one of the reasons that I think that this conversation is so key, is so important for people to engage in. Is because when you look at what happened in the 90s, I think you and I are both sort of, the Gen Xers, so we remember enough about what happened in the 90s. We not only remember the sort of Ross Perot presence in the race, right, where he came, I wouldn't say dangerously close, but he overperformed in a way that I think, caught people a little off guard. But when you talk about independent candidates and third party candidates, but independents in particular, a lot of people do not remember that the 90s represents a streak of independent statewide wins. Okay. When you think about Maine, remember Jesse the Body Ventura. I don't know if you were a child of WWF.
Minnesota. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I was a child of WWF and Glow.
Yeah.
Glow Wrestling. So I remember when Jesse the Body Ventura, right? And also Alaska and Rhode Island. We had a spate of independent and third party candidates that won statewide office decisively. Okay. So you'll realize then that the 90s were a very interesting time. And then all of a sudden, the narrative started shifting when people realized, wait a minute, we can't have this three body problem, right? Creating a series of outcomes that we cannot control or predict.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the 90s to me was not only a wonderful time of, Mortal Kombat video games and and wrestling and what have you, the heyday of wrestling, but it was also a time where politically we started realizing that the populist movement was surging because people were responding to what the 80s brought, right? And there are now entities in place that have a very strong interest in reducing the amount of what I call free radicals in the system. Having a controlled system, having one that's very predictable, ensures that those who have a vested interest in seeing a particular outcome can minimize the field in a way that allows them to efficiently control who gets what funding and what the outcome will be.
So maybe this is a good moment to step into this question, because I understand that there was an incident with your campaign that is keeping you off the ballot in Virginia.
Yes.
Would you mind talking a little bit about that? I think it's really interesting for our viewers, for our listeners to hear, what's kind of going on and or what's happened to you.
Sure. Well, and thank you for asking the question. I'm always happy to make sure people understand that, yes, I am a write-in candidate, so my name will not feature on the ballot on November 4th for the elections here in November. Yes. But I am pleased to say that I'm polling now, and a recent poll coefficient released indicates that at least 3% of respondents within a certain margin of error indicated that they would throw their support behind me. So I went from 0 to 3, and I think that is something.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier, it's even bigger than that, because I'm not saying the number's not bigger than that, but what you're
Mhm.
doing is bigger than that.
Mhm.
So we're talking about money in politics. We're talking about
Yes.
trusting the government, and you're somebody that's running for that reason.
Yes. I'm
So,
running, and
yeah.
I'm running on fumes, right?
So
So, like,
even if this one is not the successful one, the groundwork is being set up for more people to follow. And that's
absolutely.
the important thing. That's where we're trying to take this movement. And it's not just one person, it's not just you, it's not just me, right? It's
Yes.
a whole host of people kind of coming together, right? Like that
Yes.
quilt to
Yes.
kind of patch
Beautiful
this thing
patchwork.
together.
Yes. And I do want to respond to your question, though. I mean, I refuse to be cowed. I refuse to be, bullied into dropping out of the race, because as I'm out on the campaign trail, I realize that there are people who really connect with the issues that I am platforming through my campaign, but also the broader message that I'm trying to relay, as you just discussed, with getting money out of politics and making sure that people are truly empowered to be in the front seat when it comes to voting for people who will not just reject dark money, but will focus the majority of their campaign financing on the voters whom they want to serve, whom they are aiming to serve. But going back to what happened to me, it connects to the discussion we were having before, gatekeeping and controlling the system. I was well on my way to submitting, the required amount of of ballot access signatures or petitions to get on the ballot. And one of my locations in Roanoke specifically had an incident that I reported to the police where, as far as we are aware, several hundred um, signatures were stolen. And I realized that this was probably not a disorganized random act of theft, considering what happened in the aftermath. So understand that this has been reported to not just the police department, but also to the Department of Elections. And while I am limited in what I can say about who is actually involved, the entities that were involved, I will just say that I am not the only victim of this type of activity. There are other individuals who are running for statewide office who've experienced similar sabotage like operations. And because of that, it made it very clear to me that this was more than likely a concerted and targeted effort to keep me off of the ballot, which has happened, but it's not deterring me from running for office. And it's that kind of activity that I think really pushes people to lose confidence in our system broadly. And I think it's a shame that that kind of thing happens.
It's as if there weren't enough obstacles already in the way for a grassroots candidate, that you start to make it through and are performing and putting in the work, and sabotage is now an option. Illegal sabotage is now an option.
Yeah.
So it's
It was heartbreaking. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
I do think that there's a good level of hope and learning through it as well, that people can hopefully now understand this to be a risk that needs to be thought of as you're going through, that this is happening. Apparently, there seems to be now, you say, yourself, we're hearing it from you, another person as well. I'm sure
Yep.
it's broader than that, even so grassroots candidates, be on the lookout for foul play when it comes to getting your signatures to get on the ballot. It's
Yep.
terrible.
And the barrier is already high enough as it is. As you'll see from state to state, locality to locality, there are various requirements for you to even just get on the ballot. And that's hard enough as it is when you are a grassroots candidate and you're not coming in with millions of dollars from super PACs and corporations that are, asking you to bend policy to their will and to their outcome. It's hard enough as it is. And then when you have these outside forces um, who are interested in keeping the field narrow and controlled, then it just makes it that much more difficult. But I don't want it to. I personally do not want it to be a discouragement for anybody. But that's the goal. That's the objective, is to discourage people who are not part of the political elite, who are not already within the political circles, from running. I mean, there's a reason that money in politics has become essentially a gatekeeper of sorts. It is meant to sort of create a bit of a cotillion effect, where if you weren't invited, then you can't come in. I don't care what dress you're wearing. You can't come in. And that to me is absolutely the opposite of what we want to see in a robust, healthy, and thriving democracy.
Yeah. And that's, again, it's people in charge of this. So it comes down to the leadership of the groups or other groups that are associated with those that are, that are setting up these obstacles that way,
Yes.
to make it that way. It doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to
Absolutely.
be set up this way. But
Now,
by design, so, and you mentioned money in politics,
yes.
right? And, so that's a big position on your campaign, is to get big money out of politics. Constitutional amendment, probably, I imagine as well. You're supportive of that, which is a big goal of ours. You've signed pledges with the money out of politics movement, right?
And big
even,
money
I
out
guess,
VA. Yes.
and big money out VA, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think we've heard a little bit about it so far, but can you share your motivation on signing those or
Oh my
taking those
goodness.
steps?
First of all, Michael, it was one of the easiest. I mean, considering how hard this entire process is from start to finish, when approached by these groups and when I read their platform, when I read, what their mission is, I was not only blown away and so enthusiastic. There was nothing in either of those pledges that I could even remotely quibble with. Like, it was too easy. Too easy. I was like, I wish it was this easy to get on the ballot.
It's like, yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. This is yes. And
Yeah.
and I don't know the VA one particularly, but I know the money out of politics movement pledge, and it's not
Yeah.
short. You're
No.
saying I will not do to a
Absolutely.
lot of things, and I will listen to my constituents and put their, but not taking
Absolutely.
money, not taking individual money, not taking anonymous money.
Yeah.
Right.
I even
You're
sat
swearing
down
off
with
a lot of money.
well, and that's another thing too, is I even sat down with my developer, my web developer, because he had gone through it with a fine tooth comb as well. He's like, you have to put on your site a place where people can see who your donors are and where they're coming from. I said, okay, let's do that. Let's take a look.
Yeah, no problem.
and he did that, right? And so we're all of the same mind, right? Where when we have modalities for transparency and accountability, it's all about engendering trust. It's all about ensuring the people who are looking at you as a viable contender can say, this person has values and this person gives a crap about whether or not I know where his or her money is coming from. Because just like another really important person in the money out of politics movement said, every dollar is a decision. Every dollar you take is a decision, is a political decision. And I believe that making sure people know exactly what you stand for is a fundamental part of them that's deciding to throw their support behind you. Because while I never believe that any vote is a wasted vote, I truly believe that people are very deliberate and careful about who they throw their support behind. And to ensure that people know that I am focusing my campaign financing, as hard as it is, on them, on the voters, that's who I answer to. That's it. Your issues, your priorities, your concerns come first. So when I go to Richmond to serve you, you don't have to worry about the fact that I took a bunch of money from a super PAC that wants to ensure that I look the other way as data center regulation legislation comes to my desk.
Which you didn't do and which you're not going to do, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You're saying hypothetically of other candidates that do that, right? That's not, and it's not hypothetical. It's other candidates are doing that. Donna Charles is not doing that.
Michael,
so
let me tell you something.
You don't have to worry about it.
You don't, I mean, these PACs are not put together for our health, right? They're not put together because, they're so eager to see this particular candidate just get a bunch of ad buys and get their face out there. It's a decision. You're taking this money because I want something from you and you are going to deliver it, right? When several voters get together and say, we're going to pool and put $10,000 into this person's coffer, right? What they're saying is, we support you and we expect you to serve us. That's the individual voter. So a super PAC, a corporation, dark money, it's no different. So absolutely, there is an expected outcome. The same thing with APAC. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these groups want something done or not done. And so you're right. That's one of the reasons. Is it difficult for me to say, I'm not going to take money from this corporation and that corporation? To be quite honest, no, it's not. Because again, my goal is to run a campaign where I engender the trust of small dollar donors, of individual donors. I have the work to do to earn the vote and earn the trust. Yeah. And so I don't feel entitled to get their support. I know I have to earn it.
That's playing the game a different way. That's playing the game in the way it's supposed to be played, I think. Not, that's what got me started doing this. So when we met, we mentioned the Money Out of Politics movement a few times. We met in D.C. Right after the March for Integrity. I had this surreal moment. Yeah, it was rained out. I gave a speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, which was super surreal for me. And
that was
quite
awesome.
A privilege and an honor to be able to do that. And I met you right after, and we had a great conversation about what we're working on. And I just felt like that patch of the quilt got just sewn up right there. That it's like there is a power behind this movement, and it's hot, and rightfully so. American people are aware of the problem. It's just that we don't know what to do to fix it, because the system is so strong. There's, so many obstacles in the way. It feels like it's never going to change. But, I have hope and have belief that it is going to change, because we are the people of this country. We have the numbers to do it. And it's time to exercise. It's time to exercise the democracy that we built this country on to run for office. So there's people in Illinois, there's people in Pennsylvania, there's people in Tennessee, in Florida, everywhere. Every seat on the ballot, there's going to be somebody that wants to get big money out of politics.
Absolutely.
American people's job is going to be to find who they are and start to raise them up. Give them an opportunity to be on the ballot. Give them an opportunity to say their piece and speak up. Sorry, get on my soapbox.
I'm just going to push. I'm going to either push back on or add layers to two things that you said. And the first thing that you started talking about, because I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I love to add sort of the layers of complexity, especially it comes to, where the American people are on an issue like this, like a money in politics. So you had mentioned that there is, I wouldn't necessarily say a level of complacency, but also just resign, right? People feel as if the system is not going to change. But I also believe that there's another layer. there are some who don't really understand the extent to which that money is polluting our political system. And then there's another group as well. So there are several groups. I mean, I don't think the American people are a monolith on this issue. I don't necessarily think that everybody is just resigned to the fate of polluted system.
I
I
agree with
believe
that.
that there are groups who think that it is terrible. There are groups who believe that it is absolutely necessary to have as much money as possible because the system is designed as a sort of
Mhm.
feedback loop for it to be that way, right? So there are a group of people that I'm talking to that say, well, you need to have this money in order to reach people, to get your message out, to get these commercials. And if you could actually do a diagram that shows this feedback loop, the more money that you inject into the system, you have three spheres of influence. You have the candidates, you have the donors, and then you have um the political consultants, communicators, the
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 media.
um yeah, the infrastructure, right?
Mhm.
So the candidates I lump with the voters as well. But you have these three spheres of influence, or even four, depending on how much you put the voters in there, that create a feedback loop. The more money that you inject into the system, the more the infrastructure demands of you to 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 get your voice and get your message across, which means that donors pump more money into the system and you create a feedback loop. So there are people who believe that system, the way it functions, the reality of that system requires you to have a no holds barred approach to taking money from wherever you can possibly get it within the bounds of the law. But then you also have another group of people who may not even be aware of how polluting this system is. And when you talk about the next point that you make, which is making sure people know who's on the ballot, to people who are willing to push back against this, I will take it a step further. One of the charges I think we need to have is to elevate and educate people on this issue of money in politics, that people understand how, like, the seat that they're sitting in. People who are dealing with the dangers of data centers, of skyrocketing utility bills, of the dangers that are being presented to Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, all of the things that we're seeing unfolding,
Housing
the
costs.
housing costs, like kitchen
Yeah.
table issues, aside
Yeah.
from the whole Epstein
Insurance.
saga. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
even the salacious stuff, right? But your kitchen table issues, how each and every one of those things is connected to a polluted political system, one that's polluted by dark money and special interest groups that are fueling the legalized corruption. You can connect the dots on every single thing. And so, in addition to making sure people know who those candidates are, I think the American people need to know what is at stake, why it's critical for us to get big money out of politics. Because money's always going to be in politics, but big money and dark money, that's where the corrosive element is.
I couldn't agree with you more. Education is, the cornerstone. We don't know how we got here, even, and I didn't know how we got here until kind of recently.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been this slow evolution to this point, and everybody knows Citizens United. And my joke or my laugh about that is not much of a joke. Is, oh God, it sounds so awesome. Citizens United, that's great. Like, we want to unite citizens. It's such a good term. And
Branding,
that's the
branding.
trick. And that's the trick
Yeah.
that these large political organizations try to play on us at times, to make it seem like this is something that's good for society, but it's not good for society. Citizens United was a terrible, terrible Supreme
Yeah.
Court decision, is what it was, and
And guess
allowed
what?
for the fire hose to be hooked up to the hydrant of money and just blanketed all across Washington, D.C., all across state capitals, across the country, now buying judges. And what is it, kind of, says that money enables speech, and that money is speech. And who amongst us actually voters believe that that's true. I haven't met anybody that does. Do you believe that money is speech, or money equals speech, or
No, money is money. Money, money is a decision. It's like I was saying that every dollar is a political decision. Every dollar comes with a string attached. And you're talking about Citizens United sort of being the, I don't know if it's the death knell really of our political system, because as your trifold and your site like lays out very clearly that there's a history that leads up to Citizens United. That's one of the reasons that I really enjoy reading the work that you are doing to bring this coalition together, because you're not just focused on the fact that Citizens United was a pivotal decision, but there's a history that dates back decades,
it leads
if
up
not
to
even
that?
exactly. And
Yeah.
now what we're looking at in the fall of this year is a Supreme Court decision, potentially a case that's pending in front of this, that the Supreme Court agreed to take it, that completely rips the mask off. I mean, it'll make Citizens United look like child's play. Now we're talking about something that Vice President Vance and others in his sphere are championing, which is essentially allowing these dark money groups to sort of take the mask off and say, "Yep, we're doing this full fledged. Let's take this veneer of lack of coordination between these PACs and these candidates. Let's take that veneer off." And there again, you go back to that whole twisting of branding. What's really
Right.
interesting now is how those interested in seeing this case end up in their favor for allowing PACs and super PACs to coordinate directly with campaigns. What they're trying to say is that, well, this will increase transparency, right? Because now we don't have to even fake like we're not coordinating.
Right. We're going to give the money right to the candidates. Just cut
Yeah.
out the middleman. Right.
This
And
is this has
we
become the
can,
year of truth and
whatever the
consequences.
whatever the limit is to be able to give it to the candidate now, that's, been on the books and hasn't been overruled yet, they're going to overrule that one too. Just like they overruled individual, limits, just like they overruled kind of the electioneering aspects, just like they defunded the IRS to cover up the oversight to these PACs and these
Absolutely.
organizations. Yeah. So it's
Yep.
like the next step in the evolution.
And they're
And
hoping that
and
we remain as distracted by all
yeah.
of, and I'm not saying a lot of what's going on, especially in DC, is noise. All of it is concerning authoritarian, totalitarian nonsense. But the sheer amount of fire coming at the average American consuming any news or media today is exhausting, it's paralyzing, it's numbing. There's this aim to normalize the chaos around us. And just in the same way that the powers that be have normalized money and big money in our political system, the goal is to normalize chaos. And by normalizing chaos, people are not paying attention to the fact that the Supreme Court case in the fall is going to lay waste to any semblance of voter empowerment that we thought we could have achieved. I mean, this to me is probably going to be even more cataclysmic than Citizens United, this case in the fall. That to me is of real concern. But then you have all of the other issues that, again, are being tucked away as we are watching what's happening in Washington, D.C. with horror, with our National Guardsmen and women being used to, create essentially a police state. And by the way, some of them are also picking up trash in their spare time, which is wild to me. This is how we're using our service members. It's insane. We're normalizing the chaos all around us when it comes to ICE raids and the lack of basic civil liberties and human rights. This is becoming normalized, and the chaos is coming at a fever pitch. Meanwhile,
That also there's been, I'm sorry, just
no,
to
go
add,
ahead.
that there's now university fake doxing, or not doxing is the wrong term, but fake call-ins of like shooters at different schools. Villanova had one.
Uh-huh.
Forgetting some of the other schools, but yeah, somebody was telling me just the other day that there's been 7 of them this
Yeah.
year so far in like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Talk about normalizing chaos. Yeah,
Chaos
this is
and violence
terrorizing
too.
students on universities. Every time there's one of these, people are running for their lives.
And then you get the boy who cried wolf type of syndrome as well. And ultimately, this type of chaos and keeping people on a razor's edge at every given moment is really meant to create a level of instability and tunnel vision that makes it difficult for people to realize that we're all being conned, right? We're all being
Mm.
conned. And those of
Certainly
us
feels that
who are,
way. I think we're
yeah,
awake. People are awake to it now, and
I hope
it's
so.
fine to come. Yeah, I think some people were aware of it sooner, and other people kind of get to it later, and some people aren't there yet. But um, yeah, there's big problems, and at the heart of it, you were getting at before is money and politics, how it
Yeah.
shapes all these other kitchen table issues, and yet money and politics, for some reason, it doesn't make it on the kitchen table. It's the center of all these, and that's what we're trying to do with this branding and
Yes.
getting this out there, is put this issue on the kitchen table
Yes.
right in the middle, because it's the freaking turkey. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, again, I mean, the goal, like you had said, is not just elevating the candidates that are running out of pulling big money out of politics and getting legalized corruption out of our system, but it's ensuring that the American people understand how this is detrimentally affecting their lives, how their lives are less secure, how their standard of living is continuing to decline because of big money, of the polluting effects of it in our system. And again, we're talking about everything from healthcare to education, student loans. The list goes on and on. Utilities, pollution, everything is connected to this issue.
Oop. I don't want to be one of those shows that only talks about the problems, right? So
Yeah. Solutions.
let's talk about solutions, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so the sign behind me, it's on this side, says, heart, honor, respect. You might see that. That's the cornerstone of what we're trying to do. But on top of that, it says discuss, recognize the issue, discuss the issue, and solve the issue. So we've recognized it, we're discussing it. Now let's try and work to solve it a little bit,
Sure.
right? So
Mhm.
when you look across, or you think about the solutions, what gives you hope, or what's the strategy, maybe is the better way to phrase it. What's the strategy for you in thinking, okay, you're the governor of Virginia, right? Let's how do you help shape the future?
Well, I would say, and again, both of us being, born and bred New Yorkers, I say look to New York, right? When I say New York, I look specifically at the mayoral race and ranked choice voting. I think we have a real opportunity to make ranked choice voting less of a one-off and more of a way to empower the citizens. And I reject this idea, because I see it all the time. I reject the idea that ranked choice voting is too difficult for the average voter. It insults our intelligence, right? The average voter can
So how's it
operate
work? How
ranked.
ranked choice voting? I don't have it in my town, so I'm not super familiar with it. I usually just check the box for one.
Right.
This sounds like it's ranking the candidates that you want in the
Absolutely.
order.
Yes,
That's
you're
all it is.
ranking from my number 1 choice to my number 5 choice. Here's my thing. I don't even do the March Madness, the brackets. I don't do that because that to me is complicated. Okay. If people can do March Madness, okay, more people do March Madness than I every office that I've been to, they're like, Donna, you want to do it? I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know what to do. So I feel like if you can operate a smartphone and you can do March Madness brackets, you can do ranked choice voting. It is not that hard. Okay.
So it's
And
kind of like you could vote for two if you wanted to vote for two. You could vote for one, or you could vote for three.
just,
Like you have like your
just
top. It's up
know
to
that
you to
you've
be a
got your
voter.
first choice, your second choice, your third choice, depending on how many people are on the ballot. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, If your first choice doesn't make it for whatever reason, then your second choice rises. And I mean, it's really that, it's not that complicated, depending on how many people opted in for your second choice, right? So people can do the research on the candidates that they're interested in and rank them accordingly.
Does
And I
this help
believe,
get money out of politics?
and this is yes, unequivocally yes, and here's why. First of all, as somebody who was a biology major and an intelligence analyst, I always like to analyze how systems would react to what I call variables, right? Ranked choice voting gives you several variables. And when you compare that to the, one vote system, you have two candidates, you have a binary choice, right? And that's ideal for your super PAC that just says, just throw money at both of them. Just throw money at both of them, that's fine. And whoever wins, we've got a handcuff on them, okay?
Mhm.
Ranked choice voting creates variables that make it less efficient for super PACs and dark money to stack their support behind a particular individual, because you have 3, 4, or 5 candidates. And the horse race becomes much more difficult to, it's like kind of like off-track betting. It's more difficult to determine who is going to win because you're not controlling the levers all the way to the voting day, to election day. So that means a situation like with Zohran Mamdani, right? That was something that was, first of all, very much a grassroots campaign, and one that was very difficult to control the outcome of because of ranked choice voting. When you make it inefficient for super PACs to start throwing money at me, I mean, are they going to fund 5 or 6 different candidates? Very unlikely. It's very unlikely they'll do that. And so that helps get that big money element out of the system and focus on people doing the research, getting to the polls, and voting for the people who they believe truly represent their values and their aspirations. So that's how I believe, ranked choice voting represents a viable opportunity to help minimize the impact of dark money and big money in our political system.
Got it.
Does that
Yeah.
mean, does that,
No, so you're
I
going to have
mean,
more likelihood for candidates to get through. So then we'll have one of the things that we're working on building is this pathway to the constitutional amendment, the path to the amendment,
mhm.
to show, okay, here's where we are right now with the candidates, the incumbents, where they stand on an amendment. Here's where we are with the candidates that are running for 2026. If they were to win, here's where we get to, right? So ranked choice voting will just have a stronger success rate for candidates that want to get money out of politics to be successful. That's the theory, right?
I believe so. And I think that, in addition to making it inefficient for super PACs to try to bend an election in their favor, with the, sort of the binary
Yeah,
choice.
it's harder for them to get
Harder to do
control
that,
over
but you also
people.
get a wider, you open the aperture to candidates that probably will be more appealing, right? Even if you have an open primary process, whatever the case is, we need to ensure that people feel empowered. That this whole disenfranchisement by saying, oh, well, we didn't have a primary, so here are the people that you're voting for in November. Congratulations. You had no choice in the matter. You get to choose between meh and meh-er.
Right.
Like,
Been that
I
way for a
mean,
while.
and that's the thing. And I think that's why ranked choice voting also provides an opportunity to not just get big money out of politics because of the inefficiency element of it from the big money donor perspective, but it also creates a level of civic engagement that we haven't seen for a very long time. Look at the excitement surrounding Zohran Mamdani. I mean, when you have a
And a lot of
situation,
attention. I don't
that's the
know,
thing.
like there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of
There's a lot of attention, but
yeah, and there's a lot of unhappiness as well, depending on what community you live on. It's
exactly. but whatever the case is, though, people are talking about it for better or for worse.
Absolutely.
Whatever your position is on a candidate like Mamdani, I think I'm more concerned about the process that elevated him than what the candidate stands for. Now, it just so happens that he also largely fueled his campaign in more of a grassroots way with individual donors and small dollar donors. To me, that is a step in the right direction. But I go back to the point of getting people motivated and saying, whoa, I'm in the driver's seat here. I don't believe that ranked choice voting is too confusing for people to grasp. I refuse to insult the intelligence of any constituency in that way. If people can do research on what flat screen TV they want and do a compare and contrast, they can do the same for their elections. So I didn't mean to debase it like that about TV.
This is great. I think this is a real this is a real idea, right? That all places have put in, and it is working fine there. I think that you're getting more, like you said, of your voice kind of heard. Maybe it's a better review of the general consensus of the population as well, and you're making it harder for super PACs to buy. So it's new for me, right? And I think that there's a lot of value to ranked choice voting, and I haven't made up my own mind on it just yet, but I think that it's you know what? For all the experiments that we've done, this is not one that I would pause to put into place to see how it goes, at least for a little time. And so I'm supportive of that, Donna, as well. Should we let's I know we're coming up on the hour. Let's do a little quick rapid fire or something.
Sure.
If they would try and do this. Okay. So briefly, not one word, but briefly, how would you describe Virginia today?
In terms of a place to live or the political landscape? Sorry, didn't mean to.
You could go with the place to live. How would you describe Virginia?
Virginia is the best place. Virginia is the best place to. I love Virginia. So in a very short description, it's amazing.
How would you describe the political landscape in Virginia?
It is interesting. There's room to grow. I'll use that phrase. There's room to grow and improve.
Okay. How about this? How about what book or story inspires you to do what you're doing?
Poverty Inc. by Matthew Desmond. He also is the author of Evicted. He is a Princeton economist, and he has done some amazing work on understanding the landscape that a lot of Americans are living in right now.
Poverty Inc. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Inc. Yes.
Nice phone call, or a handwritten letter? Which one matters more to you?
I'm going to say both.
Too hard to decide.
Yes, too hard. Not only too hard to decide, but I believe that they're both important in their own ways.
Yeah. I know a handwritten letter is really like a thing of the past almost, right?
Yes, and I can still read. It's beautiful, but I also believe that sometimes, you just need to hear that voice too. So that's why it's hard for me to choose.
So we're coming up on your election, because your election is this November, not
November
next
4th. Yes.
Yeah.
Important dates for me to flag, by the way. November 4th is election day. September 19th is the start of early voting. And October 24th is the absolute last day to register to vote here in Virginia, but also to apply for a mail-in ballot. So those are all important dates coming up.
And Donna Charles's name is also very important to remember as well.
Yes, because you'll have to write it in.
You're going to be writing it down on there. And
luckily, it's easy to remember.
Besides your name, what's one important thing you want every voter to remember about you?
That I'm running for Virginians. I'm not running against a party. I'm not running against a group of individuals or candidates. I'm running for Virginians, and more specifically, everyday Virginians, people whose voices have been ignored, have been overlooked. That's who I'm running for. I'm running for your standard of living, your quality of life, to improve every aspect of your life in a way that a governor can and should.
Awesome. I love it. Donna, thank you. It's been great talking to you, and talking about money and politics, of course, and we could keep going about other issues. Honestly, let's be fair. We could really peel back and talk about a lot of things. Maybe we do that in the future as well. It's been a real privilege. Before we break, how about like where people can go to find out more information about you, events coming up, or
Yes.
share.
So if you go to donnaforva.com, donnaforva.com, that's where you'll find information about my platform, about who I am, about the events that are coming up, how to volunteer, how to reach out to the campaign, and also, most importantly, how to donate. As we discussed, I am focusing on individual donors. Small dollar donations go a long way. $3, $5, $10, anything you can spare. But my goal is to earn every vote and earn every dollar that comes my way. And so that is where you can go to learn more about what Donna For Virginia is all about. Also, this Monday, I'll be at the Buena Vista Labor Day Parade and Festival, which is a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to people on both sides of the aisle about why I'm running and when I decided to run and what I'm running for. So that's coming up as well in a couple of days. And then
On
I'll also
Monday,
be
on
doing
Labor
a
Day.
series, yes, on Labor Day, Monday. And I'll also be doing a series of town halls in throughout Virginia in the lead up to the opening of early voting on September 19th. So stay tuned for that. Those will be on my website for registration as well. So yeah.
Excellent.
And also, please go to my
I
social
wish.
media platforms too. I want people
Oh
to
yeah.
go to social media. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X. And that'll be a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about some of the specifics of my platform as well that you'll see on my website. So I have videos that talk about how to make Virginia cleaner with green energy. And I also talk about my stance on law enforcement and how we can improve public safety and security here in Virginia, among other things.
Excellent. And the links to the social media are probably on your website,
Yes.
Donna.
Scroll to the
And that's
bottom. They're all there.
Donna For Virginia, but it's Donna FOR, like
FOR, yes.
not the number 4. Yeah.
Yes.
There's some
Donna
candidates get
FOR.
interview.
Absolutely. DonnaForva.com. But if you
Yeah.
just Google Donna Charles, Virginia, and governor, it'll pop right up there.
That sounds easier. Hey Siri, get me Donna Charles's website.
Something activated.
Donna, I wish you the absolute best, and
Thank you.
we'll be in touch. We are going to have a leadership summit on money and politics. We're organizing that now. Dates are tentative for the end of September. So we'll be in touch about that. And I just want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast today. And thank you for being part of this. Remember, our website is www.the75.us, and we have some social medias content as well you can check out. There's not too much up there. We do post from time to time, but more so you're going to find us on YouTube with this podcast. And so, yeah, thank you for tuning in. Please like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. And Donna, thank you again.
Thank
you
you
the
for
best.
having me.
And yeah, I look forward to the future and seeing where this is going. I got a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, and it's time that we bring this to the American people as well. So thank you for being part of it.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure talking to you today, Michael, and I look forward to reconnecting soon.
Take care.